22 counts. A sitting head of state and an influencer who says she won't back down. Did the Macrons just hand Candace Owens her biggest platform yet? And a path to victory. Welcome to Macrons versus Owens lawsuit. A 22-count defamation complaint filed in Delaware, July 23, 2025. Now backstory for those who missed it. French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte sued Candace Owens in Delaware. The filing, 22 counts seeking damages. The complaint alleges that the basis for their suit, an 8-part series, spread outlandish, defamatory claims. Specifically, the Candace claimed that Brigitte Macron hid her true identity, that she and Emmanuel Macron are secretly related, that Emmanuel Macron's rise to power was engineered, that the couple used fraud to cover it up, and that they are tied to hidden elite groups, slandering them in a way that harmed their reputations. Candace Owens made these claims despite retractions demanded by the couple, which Candace ignored. So the Macrons filed suit in Delaware. Now, there is no dispute over what happened. The question is why Delaware? Venue and platform strategy. And yes, it's where the complaint was filed. But more than that, it's the choice of law. Federal and state defamation law converge in Delaware. And for public figures like the Macrons, the law creates a very high bar. We'll get to that shortly. But first, why this case matters. Presidential spouses are usually pretty boring, right? But Macron has had enough of this show. He wants to set the record straight and stop the attacks from Candace Owens. The details of those defamatory claims spread like wildfire through news and social media. According to the Macron's defense team, Candace Owens was demanded several times to remove the videos. But not only did the platform refuse, but Candace continued making related statements and claims. Retraction demands were recklessly disregarded, and in consequences, the Macrons have suffered global humiliation and harm to their reputation, claims the defense team. The complaint then details 22 specific clips, each containing multiple statements. The couple seeks damages for each of those, one for each clip, 22 in total. The Macrons are seeking both actual and punitive damages through a jury trial, with a strong indication the amount could be significant, depending on the outcome. Once again, why? Because Macron wants to clear his name, defend his family's honor, and maybe even to protect the future of his career. Let's now shift to why this is hard for the Macrons. Why United States defamation law gives public figures like the Macrons a very steep hill to climb, one that could let Owens walk. Welcome to New York Times v. Sullivan territory. To prevail, public officials and public figures must prove actual malice. In other words, that the speaker knew the claim was false or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. And it's not enough to prove the statement was incorrect. You have to prove the speaker maliciously ran with it. The statements don't need to be 100% false, just not true enough. And courts demand evidence. The defendant doubted the truth and ran with it anyway. That standard routinely sinks celebrity and political figure lawsuits. It's actually why Dershowitz recently lost on appeal. He couldn't prove actual malice against, in that case, Michael Avenatti. What's more, if the statements were framed as opinions, well, sorry, but lots of opinions are wrong, even malicious, but they're still opinions nonetheless. Take Owens' disclaimer. She opens each segment by saying, "I'm just asking questions," further bolstered by graphics that say, "Questions, not answers." And of course, opinions are not facts. So some statements are literally presented as not provable. Others are rhetorical flourishes, hyperbole designed to emphasize another point. And yet many public figures try to sue for statements that are either opinion or hyperbole, because that is easier than proving actual malice. Candace's lawyer also has a potential opening with what we might call the Streisand effect. Defamation cases open discovery, meaning both sides exchange evidence. In this case, Candace can obtain internal emails, drafts, correspondence, and even the sources for the Macron allegations. If true, such materials could paint a picture of a candidate running with unfounded claims, exactly the sort of actual malice the Macrons would need to prevail. That could be damaging, and even if bluster, discovery risk can force settlement dynamics. In addition, anti-SLAPP laws let defendants quickly dismiss suits that chill speech. Delaware's is narrow, but not unavailable. And even if Candace doesn't succeed on the anti-SLAPP motion, she can still press broader First Amendment arguments. The threat to free speech here is obvious. And she has a solid rhetorical counterpoint, namely that she was just asking questions. Finally, the of and concerning and count-by-count pitfalls. Every count must target a statement that's specifically about the plaintiff. And in this case, every one of the 22 clips must be parsed for its precise meaning. Delaware courts would scrutinize how that test applies in the digital age. Let's now shift to why the Macrons could still prevail. The complaint says the claims are demonstrably false and persisted after retraction. Demands classic reckless, disregard evidence if emails and timelines back it up. What's more, the Macrons are in a position to prove it. The couple has a ton of resources, and if they presented supporting documents, that would help. Documents matter. Notices, sourcing, timelines. If Candace's lawyer presented assertions of fact, not just opinions, especially about identity or alleged that Brigitte Macron was secretly born male and ignored contrary evidence, that's dangerous ground. And remember, truth is a complete defense to defamation. So if the Macrons can prove that these were lies, then they should win. And finally, the global humiliation allegation. The Macrons are suing in the U.S. precisely because the reach and harm were here. So if the statements were widely disseminated and caused the Macrons harm here, well, that could go a long way. In the end, did the Macrons make a principled stand that will finally test the facts, or did they give Candace Owens the legal battlefield where actual malice is her shield? You be the jury. Verdict time. Who has the edge, the Macrons or Candace, and why? Drop your take. Like, subscribe, and share for part 2 when the first rulings land. Allegations discussed are claimed in litigation. All parties are presumed to have defenses. This video is commentary, not legal advice.